The voice of sharing, 旅人的香。
Hi, welcome to a beautiful morning on the 21st of April with me, Arlene, and also my co-host in crime here, Gowri. How are you, Gowri?
Hi, Arlene. I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. How was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty boring, except that we celebrated my friend's birthday. That's about it.
I see. Well, let's start to read the news now. Unfortunately, I have nothing to talk about my weekend as well.
Okay.
So, the first news of today is by Aramon Line News. So, which country is that? Is Myanmar, right?
Yeah, this is from Myanmar.
And so it was reported on the 20th of April that Myanmar army says 22 deaths in clashes with rebels. So this is quite a huge thing because the fighting between the military and the ethnic minority rebels in the northern of Myanmar, which is the state of Kachin, has left 22 people dead this month. It was spoken by the army, dimming the hopes of a nationwide peace. So do you think peace will be in Myanmar?
It's a bit hard to say because I think they're trying to go for a reform, but at the same time, they have all these conflicts among themselves about the rulers of Myanmar. So, and also the total death from this conflict is actually unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So far they've confirmed 22 people, but the real number could be a lot more. So
I see. So according to the UN, right, about 100,000 people have been displaced in remote resource-rich areas since the 17-year ceasefires between the government and the rebels, which broke down in June 2011. So, yeah, right. I mean, the total deaths are unknown. And the military also said that the fighting flared up earlier this month after one of its officers was killed in an ambush by the KIA. And the KIA stands for the Kachin Independence Army, prompting it to deploy troops to clear areas along supply lines. So, the Kachin Independence Army is just one of the many separatist groups that is fighting in different regions in Myanmar.
yeah, and if they are really looking for a political reform, they need to get it sorted out very soon.
Yeah, and the fact that it's stated that resource-rich areas is seen that this is actually not just an ethnic war. It's actually a geopolitical clashes. Because I think at the end of the day, it's more of the how much the land will benefit not just the society but also the state, isn't it?
Yes, of course. It's also an economic thing, as you can see, because whoever is in control of Myanmar will eventually be in charge of all their resources. So,
Yeah. And so the next one is by the Straits Times. It was reported that Vietnam says 7 killed in shooting on China border. So, for this news, 7 people were killed in a gun battle between border guards and Chinese illegal immigrants in a remote frontier crossing the northeast Vietnam. It was said by the authorities. So, it's more death, unfortunately.
yeah, it seems that while they were trying to negotiate with the Vietnamese guards, some of the Chinese men actually tried to seize their guns.
Oh, really?
Which is how the
Wow.
shooting broke out, actually.
Sometimes it started with just like very, small incident and then something just break out. Like,
and it triggers something much bigger and things get out of hand.
Yeah. And in this case as well, I mean, this is also another case of, I won't say geopolitical issues, but more like, the plights of the migrant workers. They don't really have a voice when it comes to like human rights protection.
Yeah, true. Especially if they're in the country illegally, it's much harder for them to have any rights at all.
So they have to use, guns and and weapons as their means, unfortunately as well. So and yeah, in this case, I I mean, I think in Southeast Asia in general, we have a lot of similar sort of issues of migrant workers. But this is an extreme version where it involves gun battles.
Right, that's true. I hope the Vietnamese and Chinese authorities get into talks and sort this out immediately.
That's true. And the next one is the Times of Israel. Oh, Israel news.
Yeah, I tried to get it from the Israel point of view for Thailand.
That's interesting. This was reported last week as well. We reported about it. This is a story about Thailand step up its security for Israel after terror plot. And the terror plot was actually is alleged terror plot by Lebanese terrorists.
Yes,
against
it links to the Hezbollah.
So it's against the Israeli tourists in that area. So what's the development of this news now?
So it seems that after the two Lebanese terrorists were caught in Thailand, the Israel embassy actually sent a letter to Thailand to ask them to step up their security in the coming days, especially along Bangkok, because it's popular with backpackers and it's a tourist destination. That's where all the people go and can get dangerous. So,
yeah, but this is the thing. Like, the problem is is stated by Paradon Patanatabun, the Secretary General of Thailand's National Security Council. It said that we have found no links with the group at this stage, and Israel has mentioned this group, but there is no conclusion yet that the men are members of the group. So in other words, like, are they really terrorists, or maybe the two governments, the Israeli and the Thai government are just being a bit too paranoid just because of their nationality?
Yeah, that could be a possibility. I guess they're still investigating, and all these names have come up that they're linked to this group and that group. I mean, it's very easy to speculate, but I guess they haven't actually confirmed any of the details yet. But it's still safe to step up their security measures just to be safe for the people of the country.
But unfortunately, we don't have Israeli tourists here, isn't it?
Not here, I mean in Thailand.
In Thailand only, isn't it? Yeah. So I guess we don't face that kind of security measures that needed to be put in place. Or maybe we have a different sort of terrorists, which is not related to this sort. So the next one is also reported by the Middle East News. It's called Arab News. So this is about Philippines gambit in South China Sea. So there's a tension between China and Philippines, which has spiked tremendously in March when a small civilian boat was confronted by a Chinese Coast Guard vessel about 100 miles from the Philippine coast. So the boat was trying to bring soldiers food and water to the grounded Philippine Navy ships on the Second Thomas Shoal, which serve also the Philippines' last line of defense against further Chinese incursion into its water in South China Sea. So this is also an ongoing dispute, maritime dispute, in fact. What do you think of this?
Well, it seems that according to the journalist on the small boat, the incident further proves that China has established an undeclared and paramilitary blockade against Philippine ships in the South China Sea.
But isn't last week we reported that they are trying to have some sort of meeting or discussion on the code of conduct? So this kind of news will not help, in terms of...
I guess they're not really walking their talk then.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to avoid at all costs, especially between the superpower China and Southeast Asia, ASEAN in specific term, in terms of trying to avoid any military means or, maritime dispute. And this has been quite ongoing.
Yeah, and I think this is a quite new scandal too, if I may.
Scandal.
Because this only happened in 2012 when China tried to take over the Scarborough Shoal, which is located well within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone. So I guess China is really trying to assert its powers by extending beyond their territory and actually going into Philippines' economic zone.
Wow. So that means it's trying to it's trying to use South China Sea as part of its, I don't know, acquisition.
Well, just because it's South China Sea doesn't mean China can have all of that. It
That's-
belongs to other countries too. So.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, that's true. And I mean, in other words, this is a very geopolitical clash between both countries. So it takes an diplomacy, I guess, to solve this kind of
we'll
problems.
have to see how they sort this one out.
So the next one will be by the Borneo Post. So Indonesia totes population to anti Facebook investment. That was the headline of the Borneo Post. And the story is consumer-focused companies from IKEA to European automakers are putting more money into Indonesia to target the country's young populations. So the Indonesian government is also seeking foreign investment to support growth in Southeast Asia's largest economy, and of course it's talking about Indonesia itself, which has kind of slowed down to the weakest in 4 years in 2013, and helped narrow a current account deficits. So Indonesia is trying to, get more FDI, foreign direct investments, and European automakers, and IKEA is one of them.
Yeah, it seems that the elections for a new president in July is actually spurring consumer confidence, and therefore more people are actually now interested to invest in Indonesia, which has the world's 4th largest population.
Wow, 4th largest in the world, isn't it?
In the world, yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of people,
So,
a lot of
everybody's
consumers.
really confident about investing in Indonesia now, and some people even think it's a must to go to Indonesia and start investing there.
So, this was reported by Sierra Gar, right?
Yeah.
And who is this person?
Saragar is the wait, let me see. I got it here somewhere. He's probably an investing observer or something who observes the Asian investing market.
So he has meet investors in South Korea, Vietnam,
Yeah,
Dubai,
that's
and
right.
Abu Dhabi, and he said that Indonesia is the biggest opportunity in the growing market. So it seems like Indonesia is really trying hard to get as many companies to invest in its country.
It seems that even Facebook has opened an office in Jakarta itself, because in Indonesia alone they have 65 million Facebook users.
Which
That's
is like a
very
lot,
big
yeah,
number.
a very big number, isn't it? I think probably Facebook's need to focus a lot on Indonesia in this case as well. It's good that they set up an office there. So, and Serga will head to the US this month also to meet the software and gaming companies, including Facebook. That was the background of this. And Google Inc. and also Yahoo Inc. to discuss designing application aimed specifically at a country with half the population aged below 20. Wow, half of the populations are below 30 years old. So
That's probably why everyone is so interested to invest there, because there are a lot of the young market.
So the social media market is booming in Indonesia. And the next one is by the Hindu Times. Is reported that Singapore Prime Minister urges people to accept foreigners. The background of this story is in a Facebook post, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong asked Singaporeans to welcome foreigners in the country, saying that those who show bigotry are a disgrace to Singapore.
Yeah, so what happened here is there are a lot of Filipinos in Singapore, and they were trying to celebrate their 116th Independence Day in Singapore itself, in Nghi An City. And while the president said it was okay, the citizens of Singapore were not okay.
Why they were not okay?
Like, no, this is our country, and only our Independence Day should be celebrated here, not the Philippines Independence Day.
Interesting.
So they are suffering from this
xenophobic mentality.
complex, and so the Prime Minister is not very happy about that, and he's telling the people to be more open. But for me, I think it's pretty shocking to that this is coming from Singapore, because I thought they were, they're a developed country. They should be a lot
And
more
they are
open-minded than
quite
this.
diverse, right?
Yeah.
In terms of
Yeah,
the migrants
exactly.
there. There are much more migrant workers and also expats in
Right,
Singapore.
lots of Malaysians, Australians.
That's true.
It's not just Philippines.
But then
I
this
think.
kind of xenophobic attitude is also rooted in its high gap in inequality and also the socio-economic issues there. I think a lot of the Singaporeans, the general Singaporeans, felt that they need to feel much more, and they need the government to care much more towards their own socio-economic needs.
Yeah, and it's probably also due to their underpopulation issue.
And the high cost of living, definitely. So in terms of Singapore, I think their xenophobic attitude is justified, but at the same time, it's not acceptable, I think.
Yeah, it's really not acceptable.
And if for the Singaporean government to address this problem, they shouldn't just say, this kind of attitude is not acceptable. It's also they also need to go straight down to the roots why they are not happy in the first place.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister even said that, he wants them to accept these people, unless if they don't, then it will lower the Singaporeans' standing in the eyes of the world, and they have every reason to be ashamed. And I think I agree with that, because when you're that developed, people expect you to be more open-minded and accepting towards new cultures, new people, and not.
Well, there's a word for it. It's called first world infrastructure, third world mentality.
Right.
Okay, the next one is the Malay Mail Online. Lim Guan Eng spoke that Kapal, he actually expressed during the funeral that Kapal has taught Malaysians not to fear authority, which is kind of true. He has never minced his words. He has always, stand on his principle and his grounds.
Yeah, so according to Lim Guan Eng, in Karpal's tireless pursuit against injustice, he has set the bar really high for all Malaysians with his fearlessness in standing up to all the oppressive figures in our country. So he stood up against them. He was not afraid of anything, and he taught us all to stand up and fight when things were not right.
I think politicians like Kapal is very, very rare, especially in today's Malaysia. I feel that today's Malaysian politicians are very much, I would say, playing the safe line or towing the safe line. In this case, I don't think they are as charismatic as what I see in Kapal, because Kapal is a very fierce and dedicated lawyer, and his character and charisma would be hard to replace, I believe. But he sets a very good example for, or as a good role model for the future generation as well.
I think he also showed us that we should not fear the government, because the government is actually there to serve us.
That's true.
So if it's not right, there's no reason we should be afraid to speak up against the government.
And, to note that Kapal has been detained under the ISA, which is the Internal Security Act. But the government has never been able to detain his spirit. So in that case, I would say that, his death is not, a vain death. I think he has shown us, especially the younger generation of Malaysian, we should stand on our own feet and not, accept any sort of oppression by figures in authority.
Right. Even when he had a car accident in 2005 and he was paralyzed, he cannot walk anymore. He was bound to his wheelchair. He still did not give up. He still went to the parliament. He still got elected, and he still kept fighting for the people. And that just makes him such a role model and such a hero for all the young people in the country as well.
I mean, I saw from news. I didn't go to the funeral, and there were a lot of people.
I think there were about nearly 15,000 people who turned
more than
up.
expected, because in the initial number they say, it will be around 3,000 who might be well
and
well
even
wishes.
Politicians from all over Malaysia went to pay their last respects.
And in both camps, right, Barisan and also Pakatan, they also send their condolences, on Kapal's untimely death. But I feel that personally, he has set a really high bar, not
Yeah,
just to Malaysians,
true.
also to me,
And
personally.
he's left behind a wonderful legacy, and let's just hope that it doesn't die with him, that people continue with the fight.
Yeah, let's hope. And the struggles continues, isn't it? So the next one is by Radio Free Asia. It's reported that the Cambodian opposition deputy leader vows party won't betray the people. Okay, again the news on Cambodia. So I think the government is in Cambodia. I don't know. To me, they are quite detached from the plight of the people there.
Well, let's see what it says here. It says that the party will stand firm and not betray the will of the people in negotiations with the ruling party, aimed at ending the country's political crisis.
Oh, this is stated by the opposition. I think the opposition is really gung-ho in terms of trying to push forward.
And they also want to make sure that their demands for new elections and electoral reforms are met, including an overhaul of the country's main electoral body, because that will be a key part of any compromise reached by the Prime Minister Hun Sen of the Cambodian People's Party.
I think the CNRP, which is the Cambodian National Rescue Party, Sam Rainsy, I think he has probably has very firm stance, because in this election, is it? He said that he's demanding. Like you said just now, he's demanding for fresh polls, electoral reforms, and changes to the CPP PIC National Election Committee, which oversees the country's polls.
And I think the electing committee is very, very important, because they are in charge of getting all the votes, of counting. So if they are being bought or whatever by the current government, then it's impossible to get their electoral reform. It's impossible to change the country.
But on the other note, right, Prime Minister Hun Sen, I feel that he and his party, Cambodian People's Party, are still not, getting the message yet. I think they still feel that, they are in control and they are the longest government, or they have the longest prime minister in serving, as far as I know. So in this case, I think there might be some really huge changes that will be happening.
Yeah, hopefully for them. And it's also good that the chief of the opposition party is giving them some pressure. It's always good to have the opposition party that strong, like
a stronger opposition.
Like when we discussed about Karpal Singh, because if no one's pressuring the government to perform, no one's pushing for electoral reform, then the government just sits there and continues whatever it's doing, and they don't meet their promises.
Business as usual, it will be, isn't it? Yeah. And then the next one is by a Human Rights Watch report. It stated that Thailand's prominent activists disappeared. So the Thai authorities should urgently provide information about a prominent ethnic Karen activist who is believed to have been forcibly disappeared, reported by the Human Rights Watch today. And Paul Charlie Rakcharyon, which is known as Billy, was reported arrested on 17th of April, which is a couple of days ago, in Kien Jirakchan National Park in Phetchaburi province. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Thai words. And province and released, but his current whereabouts are unknown.
Right, so he was released, but we don't know where this person is. So, but it seems that the local authorities have not disclosed either Billy's detention or any evidence of his release, but they are raising grave concerns of his safety.
Yeah, I mean, why he's being detained,
Well, I think he was involved in a lawsuit against the park officials, and then he was called in for questioning, and seems that they let him go, but no one knows where he is now.
So it's hard being an activist in Southeast Asia. It seems like you can easily get disappeared, just like that. So, and the head of the Kranchat National Park Office, Chaiwat Lim Tikit Taksor, told local activists on April 18 that Billy has been detained at a checkpoint at the previous afternoon. He said that Billy was taken for questioning regarding an unlawful wild bee honeycomb and 6 bottles of honey allegedly found in his possession. Wow.
Right, so that's why he was detained.
Do you think that's the story? That's the case? I mean, he's an activist.
Well, he probably had his own reason for collecting the wild honeycomb and 6 bottles of the honey, but it doesn't sound like a very serious offense to me.
That's true. And I think that the authorities should not just stay silent about this case and explain what actually happened to him.
Yeah, the director of the Human Rights Watch, Brad Adams, is insisting that the government immediately give some response to the disappearance of the Karen activist.
And I think this is more than just, a couple bottles of honey.
Right.
It's more than just that. So, is that our news or?
Yeah. I think that's all that we have today.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoy the news.
I hope they learned a lot as well.
Yeah.
About what's going on in Southeast Asia today. For the weekend.
And we will come back again tomorrow with more news from Southeast Asia. Bye.